Today we're going to talk about a super coach. So I just made this word up, by the way. It doesn't exist. I just decided that there were things called super coaches, and when you think of super coaches, you might think of Superman. But the problem with Superman is he's just not really that recreatable and scalable, right? You can't give people superpowers, and not all of us have those abilities to fly and zap things with your eyes. So when I think super coach, I want you to think more about Batman, right? Because Batman, if you think about it, Batman couldn't fly. Batman didn't really have any superpowers at all. All he had was awesome gear. He had a tool belt, right? And tool belts and great tools are what are available to everyone. And in the podcast that we did last week with Meta from MyMe, we were saying, look, Batman is a lot more scalable than Superman. We can create a bunch of Batman. We can create coaches that have skills. They just need the great tool belt. And that's what we're really trying to do here at the Functional Forum. What we'll do tonight is talk about the tools that are necessary to create a super coach. So I've created the 5 E's of super coach, and I went on a bit of a rant last week and last month on the forum, and apparently people liked it. So I'm going to start with my rant this week or this month, and we'll see how we go. So the first E of a super coach is that they're empathetic. Now, medicine has been very generally a sympathetic game, right? Doctors come into agreement with your sickness, and it's like, oh, poor you, you've got whatever you've got, and I'm going to fix it for you. Now, in the coaching environment, any practitioner can be a coach. We've got super coaches in this room that are naturopathic doctors, that are functional medicine MDs, that are health coaches. Anyone is capable of being a coach, but they have to be empathetic. They have to be able to get over themselves and be able to really, put themselves in the position of that patient and help them get to that next level of care. And they do that through being educated. We have to have coaches that are educated in the structure and framework of functional medicine. And that's why we've got Andrea here tonight. And Andrea, if you didn't catch it 2 weeks ago, did an awesome webinar about the framework of functional medicine and how it helps coaches to be able to have a conversation with doctors. If you're a health coach and you don't understand enough anatomy and physiology to actually have a conversation with doctors, it's not going to work. You need to be able to have that, and that's why we've created those resources, part of that tool belt, to be able to have that conversation. The next part, the next E, is that they're empowering. The whole point of the coaching work is that you actually give people the tools to do it by themselves. And so empowerment is a key part of it. And we're empowering coaches to be empowering to other practitioners. You have to empower the end user. If they're just reliant on your services, that's not really the end game, and that's what we're going to be talking a lot about tonight, is how to set up the patient to be medically independent so that they can read their own labs, so that they can understand what's going on with their body, so they don't need you on an ongoing basis. They might use you because they love you and you've added so much value to them, but they don't need you. And that's a different type of medicine than we've spoken about before. They have to be equipped. And this is where the technology comes in. So over the month of May, we put a series called The Future of Patient Compliance. And in each episode, we identified a technology, and we interviewed an entrepreneur who has created a technology that equips doctors and equips coaches with the skills. And a perfect example is MyMe and Meta. If you could do a food diary for a patient and see what they're eating in real time, you're not going to have to wait 2 weeks for them to come back to an appointment, and they've just made up their whole food diary because they forgot, and they're too embarrassed to say it, so they just write it all down. This does it in real time. It's time stamped. You take a picture. A chicken salad you make at home is not the same as a chicken salad that you get from Cheesecake Factory, but in the diary it's exactly the same. So that's why the picture is so valuable. So the super coach is equipped with the latest technology, just like Batman. And the last thing is that they're engaged. They're engaged into the process. From my experience with health coaches, one of the biggest values that they can offer to their own practice and to a medical practice is to engage themselves into the community. Engage and do those talks out in there. Go and meet the local businesses. Go and develop the relationships on behalf of the clinic and and create these relationships for the physician. So these are the 5 E's of the super coach. And I just want to say one more thing. This Thursday, we have a podcast coming out with Dr. Rick Palmquist, who's one of the top vets in the country. Really awesome guy. And he gave me a book when I interviewed him last month in Los Angeles called Zoobiquity. Has anyone read that? Zoobiquity is amazing. And it's basically, there's a TED talk about it from the doctor that wrote it. It's how much that we could learn from vets, how doctors and vets could learn so much from each other. But the reason why doctors and vets don't learn from each other is because of a perceived or real hierarchy in medicine. The doctors are at the top and everyone else comes down below. And even those people who are below fight for their place in that hierarchy. And I'm here today to tell you that that is not part of the future of medicine, I'm afraid. Hierarchical structures worked very well for businesses in the old system because they had to have a hierarchy of communication. But technology has reduced the need for any of that kind of hierarchy. If you look at the most successful businesses right now, they run a flat structure. You have interdependent teams working together for the best of the end user. That's the future of medicine. And so I would say, look, if you're a health coach and if you're a naturopath and you see doctors above you and health coaches below you, I think you could be really shortcutting the potential of everyone working together. And why I mention this in the context of Zoobiquity is he shares very clearly that there's so much value that could be gathered from vets and doctors collaborating because they're seeing the same diseases in pets and in doctors, but they're calling them different names because they don't talk. And as soon as they talk, they learn a lot from each other. And that's the beauty of the meetups. We want to get people together and collaborate. And the interesting thing is this: who's at the top of the tree, right? Even within doctors. If you're a doctor and you went to medical school, you probably know that the neurology geeks or the neurology people at the top, they wouldn't talk with the family practice people because they are way below them. So this hierarchy exists even in medicine. And the irony of all of it is that the people at the top of the tree, the neurologists, they're well known in medicine for having great diagnostic abilities, but not really any treatments that do anything. And then you've got the gastroenterologists who might be at the top, and their profession missed the fact that there was 100 trillion microbes in our gut for 40 years. So, there's a sort of an irony of the fact that, that the coach that, in our perception is right at the bottom of medicine, right, is interesting because the coach, Michael Dermer sat here at the Functional Forum, you just saw him and said that patient engagement is the next blockbuster drug. And that's what coaches have. And so I'm here to tell you today this hierarchy is not going to cut it anymore, and we need interdisciplinary teams. Now, having said that, I think a doctor needs to generally run those teams and be at the top, because what a doctor is trained to do that none of the others are trained to do is to identify when a patient is in that much of an issue or an acute situation that they need acute care. But once you've identified they don't need acute care, it's got to be a collaborative effort. So I wanted to do a bit of a rant on that, just because Zoobiquity showed me so clearly that here's vets and doctors, and there's so much value in collaboration, but we need to break down these walls, and that's the point of the Functional Forum meetup. Get to meet other practitioners, get their perspective, share their perspective. After these kind of events, talk amongst yourselves and see what you can learn. There's a hell of a lot to learn, and we need to do that if we're going to deliver great care. And if we can do all of that, then we can get back to the structure that we've talked all the way through here. It's about creating a great practice, putting a great team around it, your team of professional peers right here. This is the link, this is the group. This is why we have these meetup groups. Another thing I didn't mention about the IFM, they sent an email out to all of their groups, and we have more than 100 meetup groups meeting up now because the IFM is endorsing the meetup groups and endorsing the content. So we're on an unstoppable wave of awesomeness, and it's all because of you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for watching, and for more great clips like this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I've created a special free video just for you. It's called the 5 Steps to Becoming a Leader in Your Wellness Community, and it'll give you some of the starting points on how to position yourself as the leader in your zip code of your health community. All you have to do is click on the link below.